It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Divas That Care. My name is Candace Gish. Well, it's that time of the month, everyone. I'm excited to be welcoming back our monthly guest, Rhonda Almer, and she has got some amazing tips and tools for all of you today. If this is your very first time tuning into the Divas That Care, a huge welcome. The Divas That Care is now in its 12th season, and we're listened to in over 30 countries around the world. So thank you guys all so much for being a part of our amazing journey, for sharing our shows, and really supporting all of our amazing guests and our other hosts. So thanks again. All right, as I said, we have an amazing guest back. Rhonda, I'm so happy to chat with you today.
Thank you so much. It feels like it's been a while because we're at the end of the month, which is really hard to believe, but I'm so excited to be here as usual, and I'm excited that we have a really hot topic to chat about today. So thank you again for having me.
Oh, my goodness, my pleasure. All right, before we get started, would you mind introducing yourself to our new listeners?
I sure will. So I am a nutrition and lifestyle coach as well as a personal trainer. So most people know what personal trainers do. And I do everything virtually as well. So I think it's important to note because some people might think, well, I'm not in the same, city or country or province or whatever. And I do all of my work virtually, even the personal training. So from the nutrition and lifestyle coaching side of things, it's not just about the food you eat. Yes, that's sort of a big topic that I really help my clients with in terms of getting sort of their food and how they're fueling their body back on track. But we also talk about a wide variety of things, including, your sleep and your stress management and how you're moving your body and really developing strategies to assist with all of those areas of your self-care and how we can integrate them back into your world that it feels natural, right? It's not forced, it's not a diet, it's not a specific workout plan. It's how do we prioritize some of these healthy habits and strategize based on your personal lifestyle, because everyone's unique, therefore the approach has to be unique to you so that we have long-term impacts and really have you feeling the best you can feel.
I love that. And that's why you're doing so well out there. And you're very diverse. You're very accommodating to so many people. And that's why we love having you on our program.
Thank you so much. I really do try to take sort of a custom coaching perspective. It can't be a one-size-fits-all process because, like I said earlier, we're all unique. We all have different careers. We have different family dynamics, where maybe you're involved with your community. We all sort of have stories and baggage we carry with us through our lives, and we really need to consider all those things. So another piece of sort of what I talk about a lot with my clients is mindset. What's going on, in your mind, and how are you sort of approaching these things? How are you feeling about them? And that is really important. So anyone can really benefit from the coaching, right? But because it ends up being about you. It's not, like I said, a cookie cutter approach. It's not a one size fits all. Everyone gets their own coaching because we all have sort of our different challenges and obstacles we're trying to overcome. So therefore you deserve a custom approach that's made for you.
That is absolutely perfect. And isn't that the truth? We all need something that's going to suit us because that one size doesn't fit all. That mentality has definitely changed. And we've really seen that in the last couple of years when we've had to make adjustments. Now we're looking for that. We're looking for somebody to assist us through our journey because, like you were saying, we all have our own journeys and we need somebody to really assist us with that. So thank you so much. I was really excited. So for any of our listeners, make sure you check out some of those other calls that Rhonda has done because there's some amazing tips and tools that she has chatted about on them. And today we're going to be talking about creating balanced meals. So Rhonda, why is it important to be doing that?
There's a wide variety of reasons why it's important. But I mean, in terms of our health, we want to really make sure we're getting our food from really nourishing sources, right? We want our food to come from places where it's sort of as in its natural state as possible, right? We all know we need to avoid sort of the processed foods and the sugary foods and all of those things, and we really want to make sure that we are fueling our body with the best source of fuel we possibly can. And that fuel is going to come from 3 different categories, okay, or macronutrients without getting too sort of sciencey. And that's our proteins, our carbohydrates, and we're talking about fibrous carbohydrates, and we're talking about healthy fats as well. So those 3 categories are are what's going to make up all of our meals and snacks. And I really want to encourage everyone when they're putting their meals and snacks together to really think about those 3 categories to make sure that we're having nice balanced meals, because all 3 of those macronutrients actually work together in your system, and they benefit when they are together. So we don't want to just have one of those, macronutrients on their own as a meal. For example, a big heaping bowl of pasta that's just on its own, then we're missing the 2 other macronutrients. So I really encourage always my clients and the listeners out there to really take a look at what you're eating and make sure you're getting foods from each of those categories so you can be feeling your best, fueling your body with really great things, and you'll also be satisfied mentally and physically a lot longer if you were to only have one food from one of those categories at any given time.
So a lot of questions that are asked is that there's a lot of different meal plans out there. Some people they focus a lot on carbs, some focus a lot on proteins, on fats. How do you determine which program is good for you?
Great question. So there's a lot of what I call sort of fad diets and gimmicks out there, right? And you're right. Eat, low protein low carbohydrates, high protein, high fat, low this. And you're right. It is really hard to know. And this is really why I want to encourage people just to create some balance, right? We can really focus on having a source from our healthy fat category, a source from our carbohydrate category, and a source from our protein category. And if you can blend those in and bring them into every meal and every snack that you prepare for yourself, you are going to automatically have an appropriate portion of each of those things. And, if I just take carbohydrates, for example, they get a really bad rap, right? We should really not be having carbohydrates, which is so far from the truth. What we need to be having are really nice fibrous, really natural state sort of carbohydrates. So those whole grains, right? Food that has not been stripped of its really good nutrients. And if you're eating what are called the complex carbohydrates, those carbohydrates are actually really great for us, right? They're our energy source. We don't want to take those away from our, consumption. What we want to take away are what's called the simple carbohydrates. So the high sugar processed type of carbohydrates. So if we look at saying something like a bread or pasta, we want to try to stay away from the white breads and the white pastas. They've really been stripped of all their nutrients. Whereas if we can replace them with whole grain breads or whole grain pastas, those are left more in their natural state and can provide amazing benefits to our body. So if we can think about having all 3 of the categories and not get too caught up in, well, should I be having more protein than I am carbohydrates or more fat than I should be, instead just creating a nice balanced meal, then I think you'll automatically sort of find your groove with sort of gauging your fullness factors, and you won't be as hungry all the time because now you have good food going into your body. And within those categories, of course, there are healthier choices. I just gave you the example of the white bread and the white pasta. So instead of saying, well, I can't have carbohydrates at all, we just want to start making some healthier swaps within the category.
I really like that. The cost of food, we're talking about, we always talk about healthy foods, and a lot of people, they don't necessarily go for healthy foods because they think it's too expensive. And I know that people are from Canada, the cost of foods is going up, and it's going up quite a bit right now. Mm-hmm. So how do you talk to people that really want this? They really want to look after their health. They want to be healthy, but it's just killing them for the cost of food. Do you have recommendations for that?
So absolutely, you're right. It is astronomical out here in Canada right now, and it's really tough. The first thing that I would say to sort of help combat that is we need to be doing a little bit more planning, right, when it comes to our meals. Because if we're just going out and randomly buying a bunch of things at the grocery store and then we don't end up knowing what we're going to do with them once we get home, there will be naturally a lot of waste, right? And then, you're literally throwing money out the window. But if you develop a game plan for what you're going to be having, especially for dinner tends to be sort of the costlier meal. So if we can really focus on what are we going to have for our dinners, and if you were to, let's pretend you're putting together a stir fry for your family of 4, and, you're going to have some chicken, you're going to have some veggies in there, you're going to have some, maybe some whole grain rice, brown rice. Once you divide that up over between the 4 people, the cost isn't as great. Whereas if you are, just going out again, sort of randomly putting things together, and 2 people in the family want, this, and then the other 2 people want this, and we've wasted half of each of those portions, we tend to just fly by the seat of our pants, and we're not being as economical as we can. Yes, if you're buying all organic food, yes, that's going to be very expensive. If you're buying, your meats especially, they're going to be very costly. You might want to think about, going to a butcher or something like that instead. Or for protein, we can also create some balance by not utilizing meat all the time, right? And you don't have to be a vegetarian. I eat a lot of vegetarian meals, and I'm not vegetarian. But you can do, your beans and your legumes and your lentils. All of that family will be a lot cheaper than having every single meal be a meat product. So that's going to certainly cut down on cost. So the planning piece is really important to avoid waste and make sure that you're getting sort of the biggest bang for your buck. The second thing I would say is, because we're all so busy, we tend to, more than we think, rely on eating out, right? We're grabbing things as we go, and that is actually more expensive than if you were just to cook a meal at home. And I know it's time, efficient to be able to just whip through a drive-through or, pick up something, for takeout somewhere. But that is actually, you have to sort of factor that into your grocery bill, because just to say, well, I only spent X number of dollars on groceries, but if you haven't factored in all the times you ate out, then you're sort of, fibbing on what you're actually spending on groceries. So if you were to eat out a little bit less and buy some really great quality foods, but do the planning piece, I think you might be able to save a few dollars there as well.
Well, and one of the things I like about with you, Rhonda, is that you talk about that. You're like, okay, let's sit down. Let's figure this out. Yeah. Then how much money, and you're being realistic. And I think that's why it's important to have a real coach like you that's going to sit down. Okay, what is your budget this month? What are your goals? How can we fit that all into so that your nutrition is better? Because once you start feeling better, you'll want to do the other things. Like, you're going to want to exercise because now you've got the energy to exercise, and you're being more realistic. And that's what I like about having people part of your journey that you're trying to improve on.
Absolutely. And, sometimes I don't hand out meal plans to my clients, right? Because I want to be able to teach them how to put together healthier meals, right? Versus just me telling them what to eat, and then they don't know why they're actually eating those foods together. And by doing that, they start to recognize on their own how to put together these healthy meals. And do I have my healthy fat? Do I have my carbohydrates? Do I have my protein? And when we're consuming meals in that way, where they're nice and balanced, you wouldn't believe the difference in how people feel. Like, let's put the whole weight loss thing aside, what our bodies look like. I want you to think about how you want to feel in your own body, right? And how much energy we want to have. And to your point, you're going to be driven now to exercise, and you're probably going to sleep better, and all of these things. You're going to probably be a lot more productive at work. All of those things are benefits of eating nice, clean, balanced meals. And I'm also not an advocate for, like, we can't have, if your favorite indulgent is potato chips or chocolate or something like that. We can integrate those things into your world too, but in a more intentional way, as opposed to let me just open up the cupboard and see what I can find. And once we're integrating these healthier meals and snacks, not just our meals, but our snacks too, in a more deliberate, planned way that we know are nice and balanced, those cravings start to subside, your energy goes up, and you suddenly feel so amazing inside. And I really do believe that a large portion of the population doesn't even recognize how good they could be feeling if they just made some small changes to their nutrition. And it doesn't mean we're on a diet. It just means we're making some tweaks, some modifications, some substitutions, bringing in more, vegetables, more whole grains, nice lean proteins, and our healthy fats. They all, like I said earlier, work together, and they have us feeling great, and that creates our momentum to change some other things in our lives like exercise and sleep and stress management and all those other things. So it really is sort of one of the key foundations for our self-care is putting good things in our bodies.
And I think a lot more people are going to become more intentional too. They are realizing that they can't just go out and buy the things that they used to. And I think that's what the cost of the food increase is going to be for people. They're going to be more aware. And this is going to be, it is a negative thing for sure with costs going up, but I think in the long run it's going to be very positive so that people are realizing they don't want to waste, like you're saying. Yeah. They're going to be more intentional with their foods, and in the long run they may even be healthier.
Absolutely. I think I'm a huge advocate for meal planning, right? No one wants to sit down on a weekend and plan what you want to, have out, but it's such a great way to sort of gain control over what you're eating. And, at the end of a long day, the last thing you want to do is think about, oh my gosh, now what am I going to have for dinner? And I forgot to take the chicken out of the freezer, so now we have to order pizza because we have nothing else. And it's this whole ripple effect. Whereas if we can be deliberate, now that we know the costs are rising for food, okay, let me sit down and really map this out and be deliberate. And maybe I can make, something that we have leftovers and it spans for 2 days instead of just one. That cuts costs as well. So really being, you're right, intentional with our meals, planning it out, and then hitting the grocery store, looking at, flyers. There's all sorts of apps that tell you what's on sale and what's not, and maybe you stock up on those things and have, extras on hand so that you can create really nice, healthy, balanced meals that aren't going to break the bank.
I love it. Okay, so Rhonda, I'm going to be asking you for some other things in a minute here, but would you mind telling our listeners what your website is and how they can get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So you can go to rhondaarmourcoaching.com, and on there it sort of gives you a quick rundown of sort of my philosophy around coaching. Again, this is about real life and real coaching. So I'm happy to help wherever you might be in the world, just to help you strategize on taking better care of yourself. And we take one baby step at a time. So don't worry, you will not be overwhelmed. And it's very custom and it's based on you, and that's how it should be.
Excellent. All right. So now I'm going to ask you, what are some tips and some tools that our listeners can use today to help them get started on this journey?
So if we're just sticking with the topic about meals, I really want people just to start, looking at their plates or their bowls when they've made a meal. And this goes back to the planning piece. Is the other benefit of planning is that you can make sure in all of your meals that you're planning that you have a source of protein, a source of carbohydrates, and a source of fat. So really start there. See, look down at your bowl or your plate and go, okay, where is my protein? Right? And for protein, we're talking about, eggs and fish and chicken and turkey, and we're talking, the whole beans and lentils, that family. Where's my carbohydrates? Carbohydrates are your fruits, your vegetables, all of your whole grains, your wild rice, quinoa is a great source, sweet potatoes, and then your healthy fats. Where is that coming from? If I'm making a salad and I'm doing a homemade dressing, I can use extra virgin olive oil. I can cook with avocado oil. All your nuts and seeds, which are amazing and easy to throw into things, those will be your healthy fats as well. Avocado, your olives. So look down at your plate and look, where am I getting my different proteins, carbs, and healthy fats from? And just start there. And start that with the planning process. When you're planning, do I have a source of each of these? Excellent. They don't have to be perfect, but I just want to start to create some balance. So let's just start there. Let's think of balanced meals instead of just, like I said, a big plate of pasta or just toast and peanut butter for breakfast. It's not fully balanced. It's not giving your body what you need. And if you feel like you're lacking something, it's probably because you're not well balanced. So remember the 3 categories. They're really important. You can look them up online, what are clean sources of protein, and lots of things will come up, and then start building your meals around those 3 macronutrients.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I really loved having the conversation with you about rethinking our meals, because I think that's really important with a lot of stuff that's going on right now. I think this is a fantastic topic, with we said the cost of food, but the cost of balancing ourselves. And you know what? When we eat good food, we feel better. It can help us reduce our stress.
Yes. When we feel good, and even if you're under stress, you have a lot of stress in your life, even if you have that situation in your life, when you are taking care of yourself, we're so much better equipped to be able to handle the stress, right? Because now we feel good in our body. We erase that brain fog. That is really a true thing when we're not fueling our body properly and taking care of ourselves. So now we can sort of take on the challenges of life because we are fueling our body with better food and feeling the best we can feel.
Oh, this is fantastic. I have so much enjoyed this, Rhonda. And you know what? For all of our listeners, I'm going to be posting all of Rhonda's information on our social media. And just to kind of give you guys a heads up, the Divas That Care does have an account on SoundCloud where we have a playlist of all of Rhonda's programs that she's had on the Divas That Care. So make sure, for a quick reference, you go there and check them all out. And you'll be able to see some of her other shows on health and nutrition and some really great things to help you with your lifestyle. So, gosh, Rhonda, as I said, I always have fun having you on. I'm really excited to be having you on next month. And is there any last-minute things you'd love to share with our listeners today?
Just take care of yourselves and each other. I think one of the biggest things that I always start with my clients, when we talk about sort of our goals for the coming week, is I think the thing we need to all start with is just to be, we always talk about in society everyone being kinder to each other. I think we have to be a little kinder to ourselves as well, especially when you're starting to make some changes. If you know you want to make some changes to your nutrition, start small. Be kind to yourself. Don't expect you to turn your eating habits all around all in one day. It takes time. So just be kind and patient with yourself, I think, is also a really good place to start.
That's a really good tip. Thank you very much. I think that's the one thing that we're really hard on ourselves is that if we don't see immediate results with anything that we're doing, either our health, our weight, anything, we're very hard. So thank you so much for that last minute tip.
Yes, thank you. And thank you so much for having me again. It's always a blast to be here.
It always goes by so quickly. And
I know.
I just love all these amazing tools that you share with us because, it's real. And that's what our listeners love is they love to listen to these real tips and tools that can help them in their life. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait for next month.
Oh, me too, actually. And to all of our amazing listeners, thank you so much for tuning into today's program. As I mentioned, we do have a playlist on SoundCloud. We also have our Divas That Care website, which has an amazing write-up of Rhonda and all of our other hosts and their guests. So make sure that you go there to check out all those programs. And remember, please do something kind. It's so important. There's so much going on in the world right now, and we need more kindness out there. So make sure you do something kind today. Until next time, everyone.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.